welcome to this, and this will be my Extreme Rules pay-per-view review. Before we get into the review, though, there are a few things I want to talk about, so the review will be later on in the video. Sorry for those of you that only want to watch the video, but these are things that I feel like I need to talk about. First thing, a lot of people are upset that I'm doing this video, particularly since I pretty much said I'm not going to do, and well, not pretty much, I did say, I'm not going to do any more TNA pay-per-view reviews. Pretty much not going to talk about TNA unless I absolutely have to. And they were like, well, a lot of people were like, well, but you're still going to talk about WWE. And they were like, well, WWE isn't that much better than TNA. First of all, those were TNA fans that said that, so for most of it, you're biased. And I have stated, for the last 4 months of my utter disapproval of TNA, I watched all the pay-per-views, was not happy with any of the pay-per-views. Yes, I thought Lockdown was good. Was Lockdown great? No. Lockdown was good because of one match. One match that I didn't give two craps about until the match took place. And then the match was awesome, and I gave two craps about it. Other than that, that pay-per-view, if it wasn't for that match, wouldn't be a very good pay-per-view. Yes, I understand the Lockdown the Impact. Impact was good. Was very good. Was it as good as the January 4th show? Not in my opinion. But it was still a very good show. Do I have faith that they're going to be able to do that again next week? Not really. Do I feel like that we're probably going to get the same crap that we've continually gotten for the last 4 months? Yes, I do. So until they put on enough stuff that I feel like, you know what, I'm going to order a pay-per-view, that I'm actually going to watch a pay-per-view, then yes, I will then, and only then, will I do a TNA pay-per-view review. And that's probably honest. It might be Bound for Glory, if at all. It's definitely not going to be Slammiversary like some of you think, because this is not going to happen. Now, why am I doing WWE reviews if WWE isn't that much better, or if WWE is crap as well? Maybe there is a reason. First of all, for one reason, I don't equate Raw as WWE, like so many of you do. I am aware that there are 3 other shows that WWE puts on. One of them is SmackDown, which is another 2-hour show, which half of their talent wrestles on. Okay? Because of that, I don't totally shit on TNA or on WWE, because they do give me SmackDown. And SmackDown is enjoyable 80% of the time. So I'm happy watching SmackDown. Much happier than I usually am watching Impact. So there you go. Question solved, right? Also, here's the other thing. WWE is the #1 rated professional wrestling company in the world. Or not rated, but the biggest wrestling company in the world. And not by just like this much. It's like by, I can't even probably put it on the screen how big it is. You have WWE, then somewhere, depending on what week it is and what they're drawing that week, you have CMLL, you have AAA, and you have New Japan. Okay? Then you have Noah, then you have Dragon Gate, and then maybe you have TNA after that. Okay? But that's it. That's how you rank them in the world. Since I actually follow most of the wrestling promotions in the world, wouldn't it make more sense in my mind to you know, I would do CMLL and AAA, but I don't speak a lick of Spanish. I don't understand what the announcers are saying or storylines half the time. I don't get you know, only get the major New Japan shows. I only really watch most of the major Noah shows, and I don't like either of those promotions at the moment that much, so I don't watch them. And then there's Dragon Gate, which I only get to see, which I have to search for to actually see, you know, the pay-per-views and the TV show. So there we go. Now, why would I, if I want to talk about Ring of Honor, and if I want to talk about, for example, the Phoenix shows that I thought were really good, and if the shows are as good as they were live on DVD, and I review them, and I want as many people to buy them as possible, the Dayton and Chicago show from this weekend that were said to be absolutely awesome live, and maybe the 2 best back-to-back shows Ring of Honor has put on in forever. Then you have the Manassas and New York show that's about 2 weeks out. They'll look even more loaded than the 2 shows this weekend, which means that they might actually be better than these 2 shows, which would be amazing. Why would I want as few people as possible to watch those reviews and maybe buy those DVDs as possible by stop talking about the WWE? Why is that? You know, I got to talk about Chikara the other day, comparing Chikara and Ring of Honor to TNA. A lot of people got upset about that too. Probably if I compared them to WWE, people would get upset as well. But guess what? It would sell the idea. It would make people aware of the promotions, and maybe it would help the promotions out. You know, if I want to do PWG review, I have Kurt WrestleMania, just haven't reviewed it yet. When the next DDT tournament comes out, maybe I want to review that. Maybe I want as many people to see that review. Maybe I want as many people to buy that as humanly possible. So I'll do the Ring of Honor, do the WWE reviews to try to get as many people watching my videos as possible. And maybe some of them will watch some of the independent stuff, and maybe some of them will buy it. And yay, I feel better about myself. So there you go. Now to part 2 of this video. Part 2 of this video is this, which also has to do with TNA, which was because it was pretty big news. WWE had a bloodletting. They let a few people go, just a few, just a tiny bit, and I want to talk about that. First of all, I think TNA fanboys' wet dream came true as Shelton Benjamin was released. There's already talk that he will be going to TNA with Charlie Haas and reforming the world's greatest tag team. They'll probably come in when Kurt Angle comes back, and they'll all come in together, and everyone will be happy. TNA fans have waited for this forever. That's fine. That's cool. The other thing is this, that Mickie James was released as well. Now, to me, this is a bigger deal, because to me, Mickie James showing up in TNA would be a big freaking deal. And if TNA did it right, and I'm not trying to bash on TNA when I say this, because I would say the same thing about anyone, because when people debut, they have to be debuted the right way, and that you make it look like that's where people want to be, that that's the cool place to be, and because of that, maybe if you handle it right, you convince people that, hey, this is the show to watch. It's not Raw. It's not WWE. This is the place to go. This is where the wrestlers want to go. This is where you want to watch. This is where the show you want to watch, and try to build from there. So there you go. Then we had some other people who, of course, got released. You had Katie Lee Birchill, which, TNA could bring her in. That would be to me. By the way, I will say this too. For every one person that TNA brings in from this list, they need to get rid of 2 people that they already have on their roster, because that roster is too freaking big. But that's beside the point. I've been saying that forever. You have Funaki. I don't think Funaki will show up in TNA. He might go back to Japan, might stay here in the United States, might run the Indies. That would be a guy that I'd like to see in Ring of Honor, maybe every great once in a while. You have Jimmy Yang. He'll probably show back up in Ring of Honor, I have little doubt. You have Ray Gordy. Honestly, I've heard a lot of people wanting, talking about maybe him being in Ring of Honor. I can't see TNA wanting anything to do with him. But he's like a lot of other guys who, honestly, he wouldn't stand that out that much in Ring of Honor. There's a ton of other guys they already have, so why bring him in? And then you have finally Mike Knox. And Mike Knox is the one guy on this list, yes, even over Shelton Benjamin, that I would say Ring of Honor, not TNA, Ring of Honor needs to bring in. To me, Mike Knox is a big guy. He's much better than the 2 big guys that Ring of Honor has now, and Bison Smith and Rasheed Brown. He's better than them. He's better on the mic than them. He's just overall better. I think that he would work in Ring of Honor. I think he would work very well in Ring of Honor. And I think it would be stupid for them not to bring him in. I know there's a lot of Ring of Honor fans that be like, I don't want anything to do with Mike Knox. I'm telling you, Mike Knox is very good, in my opinion. If you've watched him over the last year, you've seen how he's improved. And, I think WWE really missed the boat on him. I don't think he'll be like a big, huge thing, but I definitely think that Ring of Honor could use him. And out of all of these guys, because I think, some people have said, well, maybe you could bring in Shelton, maybe you could bring in Shelton Haas as the world's greatest tag team. To me, they're going to ask for too much money, and I don't see Shelton in particular being a guy that's going to draw a lot of stuff on the indie, draw enough people in the indies to where it's going to counterweight the amount of money that he's going to ask for. I'd say the same thing about Mickie James, and they're both going to be in TNA anyways, and I think that you need to bring in guys that, are going to stay with you, and so that's why I would say bring in Mike Knox, bring in Jimmy Yang, Funaki and Gordy, and maybe not so much. And, you could bring in Katie, but honestly, I think she'll probably go back to Shimmer anyways. But anyways, there we go there. Now let's get on to the actual review, since all of this took place before the review, before the pay-per-view. That's why I wanted to talk about it, and it was kind of, you know, WWE news. So there you go. This pay-per-view. This is one of those pay-per-views which it wasn't as good as it should have been. A lot of the matches were at least good. A lot of the matches were somewhat enjoyable. Nothing I don't think lived up to as good as it should have been. And there was just some crappy booking. Well, there was one well, two things that were bad booking, one of which was extremely crap booking, which we'll start off right away with, which was, start off the pay-per-view, looked like we were going to get Triple H and Sheamus as the opener. Sheamus attacks Triple H. I could already see where this is going. I think anyone that's watched wrestling for 10 years probably saw this, where this was going. I was not happy with this. I was like, oh my god. And anyways, we'll get to that when I get to the match. But that's how we opened up the pay-per-view, so I wasn't real happy as soon as we opened up the pay-per-view. So in its place, in the place of Sheamus and Triple H, we got Sheamus came out talking about how on Raw, Bret Hart was going to have to come out and say that, you know, they were the world's greatest tag team, this, that, the other. This brought out Teddy. Teddy came out. Said that he was going to find someone for them to take on, and whoever beat them would become the #1 contenders for the tag titles, and they would get a shot anytime they wanted. Miz kept throwing his mouth. Wound up being a gauntlet match with 3 teams. We started with Sheamus and R-Truth and Morrison. This was okay. Then what did we get? We got MVP, and then Morrison got DQ'd, I guess on purpose, trying to choke out Show, which was kind of stupid. Then we got MVP and Mark Henry. They lost. Then finally we got the Hart Dynasty. They came in, won very quick. This was a Raw segment on a pay-per-view. The match was okay. Would have worked really good on television. Maybe this is what they had in store for Raw, and they weren't able to do it because everyone was stuck in Europe. But anyways, they pretty much announced they were going to do the match tomorrow on Raw, so there was that. Then we had Rey Mysterio versus CM Punk. This was better than their WrestleMania match, which was good because it went longer. Not as good as the SmackDown match they had, which is kind of unfortunate. It was just kind of there. Was a little bit more methodical, I would say. Did a lot of good stuff. By the time it got going, it was really going, and it was pretty good. Nothing great, though. Not as great as I had hoped, but there you go. Then we got the breakup of Crime Time. To me, this is very stupid, by the way. I've talked about this. To me, this was stupid. To me, Crime Time is a complete... I know some people don't like Crime Time. They're like, it's racial stereotype. Thing is, people forget when these guys were pretty much just as started out, and this is a good example. This is a really good example. They did a kind of segment with DX, and they came off to me as just as good, belonged just on screen with DX, held their own right there. I was like, these guys need to be pushed to the moon. They never really did, unfortunately. But we got Shad and JTG in a strap match because they've now broken up. It was short. Wasn't bad. Was okay. Just was too short. Ending was kind of just there. The crowd was absolutely dead for this, unfortunately, which is kind of unfortunate. But I guess whatever. And that took away from the match, but they didn't get a lot of time. Then we got Jack Swagger versus Randy Orton for the title. This was good, not great. Definitely not not title worthy match at all. Was just good. Was way too methodical. Was kind of the bad type of Randy Orton match where you know everything is just kind of slow down paced. Jack Swagger did get in a lot of stuff though. He did look good in here, which you know is kind of weird considering you know he lost to Undertaker and then turned around and lost to Morrison, which was kind of stupid. Would have been a lot better if he had maybe even maybe cheated and beaten Undertaker, or, you know, definitely beating John Morrison. And then he came out, he beat Randy Orton, kind of fell flat, was just kind of there. Then we got to the oh my god segment of this pay-per-view. Sheamus, who for up to this point in the pay-per-view, they were continually talking about how bad Sheamus had beaten up Triple H, that Triple H wasn't able to wrestle, there was no way he was going to be able to wrestle, this, that, and the other. And of course, Triple H came out and wrestled Sheamus. For 20 freaking minutes, this went on. 20 minutes. Triple H, who was supposed to be crippled, stood toe-to-toe with Sheamus. Not only that, he almost beat Sheamus. Sheamus had to do his finisher 4 times to finally beat Triple H. What the fuck? Okay, what was this? What was this? First of all, Sheamus should have went over at WrestleMania. He finally goes over here, but he looks stupid doing it. I mean, they did book him strongly, but they booked him strongly in a way that, yes, they booked him strong, but he still didn't look like he was in the same league as Triple H. This shit has got to stop. Guys like Triple H, Cena, Batista, but Batista might be gone, Orton, all of these those guys need to be booked in a way so that they look like they at least belong in the ring, are on the same level as these guys. And until WWE starts booking guys, particularly Triple H, this is the type of match when people ask why I bitch about Triple H. Here is the type of reason why. This match didn't need to go 20 minutes. This match needed to go 5 to 10 minutes at max, with Sheamus destroying Triple H. Would have been much more effective. Instead, no, Triple H's ego undoubtedly got involved, and he had to go out there and put on this long-ass, boring-ass fucking match that went far too long. I didn't give 2 rats' asses about it. I don't know if anybody else did. Just, as the rating says, fuck Triple H. I mean, literally. Then we got Michelle McCool versus Beth Phoenix in a Extreme Makeover match. This was actually pretty good for a women's match. They actually let them go out there for the length that they did and let them wrestle. It was pretty good. Wasn't great, but was pretty good. I mean, it was pretty good. Was almost good. Was definitely one of the better women's matches I've seen in a long time, particularly from WWE. So there was that. Then we got Edge versus Chris Jericho in a cage match. This was lackluster. It was still a good match, but it was lackluster. This probably would have came off maybe better on TV with less time. This went for a long time. Edge is not a good face. I'm sorry, I know Edge has a lot of fans. Edge is not a good face. He doesn't play a good face. These guys are far better than what this match showed. Just wasn't very good at all. I shouldn't say wasn't very good, but it was not as good as it should have been. It was very disappointing. It was still a good match, but it was very disappointing. Then we got John Cena versus Batista. This was great at points. This was very great at points. I thought this was a great match up until the ending. I know a lot of people are pissed off about the ending. I'm not so much, because I've seen that ending before. If I could remember the match, I would tell you which one it was, but WCW, I know, did something very similar to this in a match like this. It's been done before, where you have, a Texas Death Match, or, Last Man Standing, or Lights Out match, or whatever, where you incapacitate the guy, where there's no way, through a gimmick or whatever, is going to be able to get to his feet. That's basically what they did here, so I'm not as pissed off about the ending as some people are. I still thought it kind of took away from the match, particularly since it was so awesome and it should have ended with one of the great spots that they did. But other than that, it was what it was. Very lackluster pay-per-view, even though if you look at the ratings, there seems to be, none of the matches were bad. I mean, nothing was really bad except really the Sheamus and Triple H match, and that was just irritating more than anything else. But nothing really gelled. Everything just felt flat. The crowd here was horrible. WWE needs to start writing down the cities that have bad crowds and stop going to them, particularly for pay-per-views, and need to reward the towns that have good crowds, because this hurt this pay-per-view, where the good crowd from Lockdown helped that pay-per-view. So, and this was probably probably just about as good match-wise as Lockdown was. Had a little bit better booking, but of course it didn't have that one great match that Lockdown did, which was, you know, an awesome match. So there you go. Not a great pay-per-view. 6.5. Avoid, I would say. It was okay, but it was definitely not worth the money. And you know, this could have been a good pay-per-view, and particularly since Backlash. Thinking about this the other day, I was like, you know, maybe this will be as good as Backlash usually is. Maybe it does make a little bit more sense. You know, you're coming off WrestleMania. You have, you know, you're gonna have a bunch of gimmick matches, maybe a bunch of blow-off matches. That's not what we got, and that just didn't come off very well at all, in my opinion. So there we go. I would say if you really feel like ordering a pay-per-view, order the WEC pay-per-view from last night, because that was some awesome shit there. That's the honest truth. But anyways, with that, I'm out. Have a good one.